Containers running inside a pod are ephemeral. They might crash at any point, and they might then be restarted with a kubelet and have lost all of the state associated with them. This is a problem because on-disk files which are associated with a container are also ephemeral. Each time a container restarts, the contents of those files are going to be lost. Clearly, some mechanism for persistence is required, and that mechanism is provided via the volume abstraction. The volume object in Kubernetes exists specifically to address two use cases. The first of these we just discussed. This is the need for some state which lasts for longer than the lifetime of a container within a pod. The second use case for volumes is in order for containers running together in the same pod to share files or to share state. Kubernetes volume objects have an explicit lifetime. That lifetime is the same as that of the enclosing pod. As long as the enclosing pod is alive, the volume is alive and available as well. This means that the volumes are going to live longer than any individual containers within the pod, and the data within those volumes will be preserved across container restarts, but they will not continue to exist beyond the pod's lifetime. So if a pod ceases to exist, the volume will cease to exist as well. You should know that there is a slightly different type of Kubernetes object called a persistent volume. Persistent volumes actually persist even across pod lifetimes. They have a completely separate existence. In fact, they are analogous on the storage side to nodes on the compute side. In any case, we'll get to persistent volumes in a bit. Using a volume is pretty simple. Inside the pod specification, you've got to specify which volume object you would like to go with, and you would also need to explicitly mount the volume into each of the containers. Each container in a pod needs to explicitly and independently specify where to mount each volume. So at heart, each volume is just going to be a directory which might contain some data within it. That directory is going to be available to each container at some specific file location. There are many different types of volumes, and we'll go into the details of those in just a moment. The way in which data gets into those volumes depends on the type of volume. For instance, there are specific volume types associated with each of the major cloud providers. There is, for instance, an AWS Elastic Block Store volume type, an Azure Disk volume type, and a GKE Persistent Disk volume type if you're running on the Google Cloud Platform. More on volume types in a moment.